Myself Manu, presently working as an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Today I will be presenting a topic called DevOps in the software development as well as in the IT industry. These are all the topics I will be covering. Initially, we'll see what is DevOps. As we all know, DevOps is a software development method that stresses the communication, collaboration, and integration between the software developers and information technology professionals. Mainly, it's help us to reduce the stresses as well as which help us to reduce the number of steps. Initially, DevOps is the combination of the cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increases the organization ability to deliver the applications and services at a high velocity. Mainly, as I said earlier, here it reduces the stress. This figure shows the how development of the software will be. As I said earlier, development is the complementary to the agile software method. Earlier or till today, we are using the agile method. Addition to that, we have using it DevOps also. And also, DevOps aspects came from the agile way of working also. Observe here, we have a development field, we have a quality assurance, and also we have a operations also. As I said earlier, here we have a rigorous definition for the DevOps. DevOps is a set of the practices that combine the software development operations that aims to shorten the system development as the life cycle with a continuous delivery and a high software quality also. Here we may expect, suppose if we use the agile method, we may expect a high software development. These are all the various definition for the DevOps. Initially, mainly DevOps establishing the communication between the developers and also operations. Here, this figure shows the how communication is established between the developers as well as operations. Initially, there is a communication between the developers and operations, and also there will be the collaboration, and also there will be the integration. DevOps is a philosophy of unifying the development operations at the high tools levels and also architectures levels also. And also here, mainly we are representing the culture as the software and teamwork, responsibility, accountability, trust, and practices as policy, roles, process, procedures, and all those things. Here, tools are nothing but shared skills, tool marking for each other commonly technologies. Next is the model application in the cloud and how it will be used. Here, DevOps found the initial transaction within a large publics like Amazon, Google, Twitter, and all those things. DevOps helps to ensure the frequently deploys with the low failure rate. Here, suppose if we have adopted the DevOps technique, means we can expect the high performance rate as well as we can expect the low failure rate also. Most of the companies of all sizes are beginning to implement the DevOps practices also, and DevOps adoption increased from 66% in 2015 and 74% in 2016. Obviously, there will be increase in a gradual manner. Here, five things with not respect to DevOps means what DevOps will not do. Initially, DevOps is not simply combining the development and also operations teams. And secondly, DevOps is not a separate team. Here we are not getting the any separate team. Here DevOps is not a tool. We need to keep in mind DevOps is not a tool as like other tools. DevOps is one of the technology or methods. DevOps is not one size fits in all strategy, and DevOps is not just a automation tool. Here this figure shows the how DevOps is used or how DevOps is implemented. As a software engineers, we are using the development tools also, and as a IT guy, we are using the infrastructure operations, and we are using the quality assurance for testing. And now we'll see the what DevOps and software development a life cycle. Initially, we are using the develop to check in a code and pull code changes for a build, and here we are using the develop DevOps to test it. and it stores the artifacts and build a repository also, and it deploys and releases in a communications also. Now we'll see the what are all the aspects of the DevOps and why we are using DevOps and all those things. Mainly we are using the DevOps to configure the environment. Suppose if you want to build such an environment like software development, we must use the DevOps also. And mainly DevOps is used to update the databases also. And mainly we are using the applications also which help us to updates and push to users and applications of the network performance and monitoring those things. This is the life cycle of the DevOps. Initially, as I said in the previous slide, mainly we are using the DevOps nodes to combine development as well as operations. It certainly involves several steps. Initially, we are using DevOps for the push code and also fetch changes and also run unit test, because here test engineer has written a several test cases. No, we are using those for doing such a environment. And next to do build artifacts and also store artifacts and also provisional environment and also to deploy build own environment and run load functional test. And mainly we are using develop, quality assurance, staging and also production environment. Here now, what is the rapid development if you use the DevOps? Here, so assume we are using the DevOps tool. The DevOps lifecycle equal to a rapid release cycles with a strong feedback loop. Means certainly we are using in a looping manner. Once user has created some cases to develop the software, then obviously he will send his requirements to the development team. Development has to analyze those teams, and after that they will be doing such an environment, they will be creating such an environment, and after that they will build a software. After that they must send those to the testing team, and they need to test in a several aspects or in a several way, and finally they will going to deploy in a user environment. This is the progress of the development DevOps. Initially, observe we have a here we have divided into two categories. One is development and testing, and one more is the release and monitoring. As I said earlier, here we are developing team. As a developing team, we must work with the testing team also, and after deploying to the user environment, they need to do the monitoring also. Assume, suppose if we have a development as well as test team, means obviously they must give a feedback. User needs to give feedback, means in terms of requirements, and they need to develop the software. After that they need to test also, and finally they will going to deploy in a user environment. After deploying the user environment, test engineer or a developer has to monitor the activities, because some persons may aware of the things they have developed, or some of the persons they may not aware of those things, because they have given the requirements in such a way that only, suppose as a user I may aware, I may not aware, but the thing is I must aware of the usage of software. And next is the DevOps main objectives. Mainly we are using the DevOps for the installation of the server hardware and operating system. And secondly, we are using configuration of a servers and to do configuration of a networks and to do storaging also, and several applications we are using the DevOps. And mainly we are using the DevOps to monitoring the servers also. And mainly we are, suppose if you want to combine the different operations, or if you want to combine the like servers, network, storage, we must use the DevOps also. Here what I mean to say, there is a continuous integration, I must go with DevOps only. And suppose if we are looking for a continuous delivery to the customer, means obviously I must go with the DevOps only. And next one is the response to outages. Suppose if the customers, those who are not belongs to that organization also, they may intended to request some applications, or they may don't have idea about these things, but DevOps may be capable of providing the continuous response to who are all not belongs to this particular organization also. Next is the main thing is the one of the IT security. Suppose we have a suppose we don't want to breach the security, or if we are not ready to leak the information, I must use the IT security also. And next is the change control, and next is the backup and disaster recovery planning, and automatically orchestrating the entire process. And next is the infrastructure as a code. As I said earlier, here develop is just establishing a communication between the developer and operations. Developer has to do his own work, and similarly operation team has to do his own work. But the thing is, it will reduces the stress between the developer as well as operation team. So now they are telling the stream how infrastructure is used as a code. With the arrival of tools like Puppet, as we all know, these are all the tools like Puppet, Chef, and concept of the infrastructure as a code was born. Suppose if you want to convert the infrastructure to the code, I must use a codes like Puppet, Chef, and all those things. Next is the infrastructure as a code. A programmable infrastructures means writing a code done using a high-level languages or any descripting languages to managing the configurations and the automated provisioning of infrastructure in addition to the deployments also. And next is the how DevOps is used in the cloud environment. As we all know, cloud provides the infrastructure as a services, platform as the services, and several services as a informative, and also it means provide the different services in a varieties of ways. Now we'll see the how DevOps works as on the cloud. Now, before seeing the how DevOps is on the cloud, we must know the relationship between the cloud computing and the DevOps. Here, DevOps is really just a IT for the cloud. No, it's a can only DevOps is the cloud. These are all the questions will arise with respect to the DevOps and the cloud. Can you only do cloud using the DevOps? The answer to all these questions is no. We can't do like that. Here, cloud and DevOps are the independent but manually reinforcing the strategy for delivering the business as well as IT. Next is the prerequisite for DevOps. Here, there is a normal formal career tracks for becoming a DevOps engineer. There are either developer who get instructed in a development and network operations, or a system adminer who have a passion for scripting and coding. Suppose he has aware of coding as well as scripting, they may use and move into the development side where they can improve the planning, test as well as deployment also. Either way, these are all the pupils who have pushed behind their definitions, defined areas, and a competency who have more holistic view and therefore a technical environment also. Next is the now we'll see the what are all the tools in a DevOps. Here, whatever I have listed, no, these are all the tools in a DevOps. Once is the Ansible and scripting, Jenkins, Chef, Git, Nexus, Docker, and Nagant and Vagrant. These are all the, and also we have a much more several tools available with respect to the DevOps also. Next, as I said earlier, here mainly we are using the integration, continuous integration. Now we'll see the what is meant by integration, how they will going to join, how they will going to indicate, and all those things. Continuous integration is the software engineering practice in which isolated changes are immediately tested and reported on whether they have implemented in a varieties of ways or not. Here time spreads are crucial, and commit to the new functionality and build a new application. And as I said earlier, suppose test engineer has written several codes which help us to run the test cases also, and which help us to integration test and all those things. Now we'll see the how finally how release will be done by using the deployment team. These are all the software development pipelines like means we must have some protocols. As we all know, suppose if we are willing to work in a software industry means obviously we must have a commit, and we must have a build, and we must have a test also, and finally they will going to deploy in a user environment. And these are all the continuous applications monitoring and feedback solutions are how enabled, and these are all such a things. But the thing is, what we need to concentrate, how manage and optimize the applications and the infrastructure performance in a traditional IT, means in a old methods we were using such a manipulated methods. And finally, receivers customers feedback both in a different ways, like we have a receiver customer feedbacks in the both pre and post productions also, because as a development team we need to get, or we need to take the feedback from the customers also. These are all the things with respect to the DevOps.